Okay, thin content. Because if your content isn't worthy enough to rank based on what else is already ranking for that topic, then you're not going to be ranking. No rank for you. So there's a variety of things that are required for you to have content that's good enough for Google to rank. So you need a page that's optimized for a keyword or topic. Google kind of blatantly says that you should be using the words that your target audience is using and put those words on your page. They need to be quality. They have those search engine raters, right, that review pages and determine if they're quality or not. The type of quality bar that you need to meet would depend on the type of content you're publishing. So if you are something that they would consider your money or your life pages, there's a higher bar for quality content. So if you're a news site, a health information site, legal site, anything where somebody's going to give you money and it could impact their life, that's a higher bar. The metadata should be unique for each page, so when you audit, you're going to check that. Ideally, it would match the page, right? So the page title and meta description and copy would all be about the same thing. The meta description would be enticing enough to get a click. Google will also take a look at whether or not people land on the page and stay. So is the page substantial enough for someone to get their question answered? Do you think there's any UX issues on the page that would be a problem? The high quality pages correlate with higher social shares and links, so generally you'll take a look at that in an audit too as a indicator of which content on the site for this client or your website is performing the best. And that's all because of Google's Panda algorithm, which we've talked about earlier in the training sessions, but it's a piece of the algorithm that's constantly rolling out. It's focused on lower quality. Back in the day, it actually eliminated sites like eHow from Google search results. Now it's just constantly rolling out, and it's taking a look at whether or not you deserve to rank based on the type of content you've created and whether or not you're truly answering the question encapsulated by that searcher and what the searcher was really intending to find when they search. That's why it's called searcher's intent. So to check this in an audit, you're really going to be pulling data from a crawl tool. Most of the crawl tools will actually take a look at how many, basically the word count of the page. They sort of set them up differently. Deep crawl will look at a certain amount of words. Screaming frog will take a look at another type of words. But either way, there's usually a thin content report, particularly in deep crawl, that you can pull. And here's a quote from Google, because part of the reason this is a problem is if you have a website that has too much thin content, Google would potentially view your entire site as a lower quality site and start crawling you a bit less. There's a variety of ways thin content can be created. In my experience, most of the time it's, especially post-Panda, most of the time it's inadvertent. So their CMS is doing things they're not aware of. They've either got WordPress and it's cranking out tag pages that are empty, or you've got faceted navigation or session identifiers that are cranking out weird pages. You've got duplication that you didn't plan on that somehow the CMS is cranking out, or maybe you have a dub-dub and a non-dub-dub version, there's your duplication. Maybe you have pages that are really supposed to be throwing a 404, you're letting Google crawl your internal search results, for instance, and that should really be a 404, but instead it's returning a 200. All of that could be thin content. So how do you go about fixing it? So the latest from John Mueller is that if you can't improve upon it, you probably should either no index it or 404 it. This is one of those things where it depends. Most of the time, you probably should just show it as a broken link and 404 it. There are some times that you'd want to no index it at the page level because Google's already found it, right? So you need to no index it at the page level versus the robot.txt level because you want Google to come back, find it again, and then drop it out of the index. And they can't get to it if you blocked it at that robots.txt level, which is the first thing they say before they get into your site, right? So most of the time you're probably, however, going to want to 404 it. But if you're talking about internal search results, that's where you're probably going to get in a conversation with developers and figure out what is the best way to solve it. I had a client in particular that really wanted Google to crawl their internal search results because that's how they kind of built the website for you to find the content. So we kind of came up with unique ways of handling that. In particular, we made sure that if no results were found, that would show a 404. We grayed out options if it wouldn't generate any results, that kind of thing. So that way, when Google hits the site, most of the time they're actually going to get a real content page, even though we're letting them crawl some of the internal options. The other thing you're going to want to check in relation to thin content is whether or not you're ranking for your target keyword. There's a couple ways of doing this. You could use Chrome Incognito as you're searching, though just as an FYI, most of the time it's personalized for you. You can check Google Search Console. Under Search Traffic and Search Analytics, you can see if you're ranking for a clear target keyword. You could use the SEO Moz bar to flip for non-personalized. You could use a ranking tool, or you could use Google's Google AdWords preview tool. The other thing you're going to want to check is whether or not your videos are creating thin content. Because oftentimes those video pages are just a video page. They don't have text on them. They need text. Google can't read the video. Google can read the transcript of the video, and that's best practice. So if you could have a video plus a transcript plus some descriptive information on the page, ideally you want to make sure that there's one page per video, not a huge page with 1,000 videos on it. And when you come to optimizing it, you can actually do keyword research in YouTube. That might make a lot more sense if this is a video that's also on YouTube. And if you're using a video service where it's not YouTube, so you're embedding it into your site and you're using something like Wistia. For business reasons, you've decided that you want that equity. When it shows up in search, you want those visits to come to you, not to YouTube. You're not really advertising on YouTube, that kind of stuff. You've decided you're going to use a video player. If you have a video player on your website, then you can do things like a video XML sitemap of the things being created by your video player. Stick that in Google Search Console, link to it from your sitemap index file that you've put in your robot.txt file. You can also do video schema markup on the page. If you're using YouTube, those aren't options, but if you're using something like Wistia, they are options. And then I'm giving you some really great resources to learn more about video SEO.